We've all heard the phrase, it takes a village to raise a child, but the thing that we often forget is that it also takes one to support the mother.
Well, speaking of the village, this is our podcast. I'm Nicole Harlow.
And I'm Dawn Thompson, and we're here to connect you with a village of support you need from pregnancy to parenting.
So come on this journey with us as we build your village one episode at a time.
Hey, good morning and welcome, or whatever time of the day it is for you where you're listening. We are so excited to have Miss Shafia, Mama Shafia. I mean, like, you have so many nicknames.
I do. And
Yeah.
that's very African when you have so many, you're not one person, you're multi-connecting, I'm auntie, depending your mama, your grandma, your sister. So I love the fact that we have multiple representations.
Yeah, I love it. And you and I go way back. I mean, I think we probably met at least 10 years ago, maybe even longer than that. But probably the most substantial for me was when you came with us to Brighton Bush which is an incredible, if you guys don't know what Brighton Bush is, I kind of almost don't even want to say anything because it's like it's a secret little place, but it's a spectacular hot springs up in the mountains of Oregon. And we've been there multiple times as a group, and Miss Shafia was there with us. And Miss Shafia, will you just, kind of just tell a little bit about yourself and what you do in the world of birth?
Right. I sing. So, good morning. Thank you. So good to see you. Yes, that's a good reminder. Brighton Bush, beautiful connection for us. So thanks for bringing that back again. So my name is Shafia Monroe. I am a byproduct of two amazing parents, one from the South, Alabama, one from the North. I say I'm bicultural. And I was just taught as a young child, if you see something wrong, to fix it. Learned that there was Black infant mortality in Roxbury, Mass. At that time in the 70s. It's like the highest in the nation. Of course, every state claims to be the highest. So if you're Black in any state, it's high. So I didn't know what it was. I'd never heard of infant mortality. Again, my parents taught me to research, looked it up, found out it meant a baby dying. And I always tell people, like, who talks about babies dying at Thanksgiving or Easter or Kwanzaa? You don't. So I was totally shocked to find out little babies were dying. I wanted to be a vet when I was young. So I was already a very sensitive child. As I wanted to make a difference. And then I learned about midwifery, and I read about these Black midwives and how, to me, they were like angels. These women who were like walk through the night and, carry bags and, going past snakes and all kind of other challenging things, and just always there for the women, always loving and always bringing things and praying like, oh my God, I want to be like them. And that's been my journey ever since, to be like them. So I am a traditional midwife. I am a spiritual midwife. I've been helping families, mothers, fathers, people to bring their babies into the world since I was about probably 17, a mother of 7, a grandmother of many, a great-grandmother of 2. I'm a herbologist. I travel the world, and I transitioned from being a active midwife to being really a motivational speaker around this topic, which really is self-love, and let's just make the world a better place through birth, through empowering, families, through loving children, trying to break the myth, especially in the United States, where motherhood is this negative thing, like your life is going to be over once you have kids. I have 7 kids. It's like, my life was amazing. I'm like, did I do something? Why am I so happy with my 7? Because why don't I remember, I don't remember anything where I try to go back, like that, amnesia. And I talk to people of my generation, like, did we go through something different? Like, yeah, I didn't go through no depression. We don't remember what we hear today about it being so difficult. So it's like, what is the difference that's caused such a difficult time with mothering? Is like, I'm watching, on social media, it's just like so much depression and anxiety and fear of like doing this thing. And so I want to bring back traditions, because what my grandmother did that worked for my dad and my mom, which worked for my children, which worked around the world, still works. And so I spend a lot of time like studying other cultures and then bring it in mainly through my doula training. And the reason why I like the doula training, because it's a fast track to changing someone's thinking and immediate results. I love midwifery. I want more midwives, but that's the longer track of, 4 to 6 years. But, in 32 hours, I've changed women's lives, and I've changed over 5,000 women. I've trained 5,000 women since 2002. My program was the first Black doula training organization in the United States. So there was no Black organizations doing doula training. I created that model. So it is the African-centered training. And it's just great because they just immediately like, okay, I wish I had known this with my second child, my first child. And then a lot go on to become midwives. So it's like this kind of, you're going to be a doula, but you learn a lot about what midwives are. And so eventually you will become, if not a midwife, you'll work with the midwife. You'll recommend your clients or families to use a midwife and get midwifery back at a elevated state. Because like in our community, midwives were never burned. That's not part of our culture. We always loved that midwives in Africa and in the South. So this thing about midwives being ostracized and negative and, you know, dirty, it's very much a patriarchal European mentality that we really try to rebuke by saying what the facts are. Midwives have been all over the world. We're the first healers, and we're here to stay. And so, like, I just love hugging women and getting them excited about their pregnancy, making them feel beautiful. I do a lot of postpartum work right now. I have a book coming out next year about mothering the mother, because that's what we're missing. Where historically, your mother took care of it. I have 7 children. I have 4 daughters. So when my daughters have children, well, for one, they were lucky. I actually caught their babies because I just happened to be a midwife. But even not, I watched my own mom take care of my sister's children. When she bathed the children, she massaged them. I grew up watching. That was normal to have your mother help you. It was normal for your mother to come and stay with you. And so your life was easier. And I hear so many men now saying that they don't want any more children. And I ask them why. Because I'm burnt out. We want this one partner to be the cook, bottle washer, and a provider, and it's not possible. Having a baby.
My husband.
Oh,
yeah. When my husband and I got together, right? Because we both each had 2 children. I had 2 kids, and he had 2 kids, and we combined families. And initially, he was like, "I just want to be clear. I have zero desire to have any more children. So I want to be real clear with that, and that you're clear with that too." But the reason that he didn't want more children was because he and his partner got separated when their baby was just 6 months old. And he became the primary caretaker. He had primary custody of these kiddos. So we had a 2-year-old and a 6-month-old working full time with zero help. And he was just like, it traumatized him ultimately. Eventually we actually did have 2 more children together, and the decision-making process was really about him recognizing that he had a partnership, that he had support. And then on top of that, our 4 children, by the time we had these 2 more, were teenagers. And so we had our village literally built in. Yeah. I mean, it's literally built in. And so, you touching on that. And then there was something else that you said in the beginning about this idea that it's, parenting is awful and hard and, all these things. And I have talked to so many young families about them dreading the terrible 2s or the 3s or the teenage years or whatever. And I have said, listen, don't buy into that. Don't buy into that. Because I have 2 teenagers right now, and they're both amazing.
Yay.
They're incredible people. And I'm like, you know what? It's because I'm not buying into this whole bullshit that, excuse my language, but I'm not buying into it, that teenagers are awful. It's like, no, they're not awful when you have good communication and respectful communication with your children and, like all these things. And so anyways, I know that kind of
diverts from
the purpose today.
No, I think that one thing that's important, you say what's it called? The terrible truth. Let's get rid of these negative words. I mean, that's the thing. Why we just kept it, it's terrible truth. We kind of like, we talk about affirmation, right? Affirmation, you can be what you want to be, you can have your business grow, you can be healthy, but we're not affirming a little innocent 2-year-old who just is discovering itself. So it's not terrible. We could call it the exciting. I said, although this is exciting 2-year-old, this is inquisitive 2-year-old, and get rid of the word terrible. So we've been saying that for decades, right? And so we just look for, even if they're not bad in our mind, we think it is. So the same with the teenagers. I mean, they're humans, right? Why is that terrible? Why did the creator make that age a terrible age? It or she did not. And so again,
that's right. Are they hormonal? Yeah. Are they hangry? Do they need food? Do they need sleep? Like, yeah, I mean, it's just like anybody else.
Do they need a rites of passage? I'm reading Kunta Kinte, Alex Haley's book again. I'm reading about how the young boys, because he's a guy, so talking about him, but how they go through phases of being responsible. And so hormonal or not, they have a whole collective, a whole village. At 8 years old, you learn to herd the goats. You know, at 10 years old, you bring in the wood. You know, at so-and-so age, you greet the visitors. So they have so many rituals that keep them happy and collective. I think for us, we have such a multitude of cultures here that everyone's doing something different. So your teen says, well, hey, she can stay out all night, and my teens could not. When the lights came on, they had to be at home. You know, at a certain time, I take my kids' phone. They don't keep their phones at night. I pay for the phone. It's my phone. And if you pay your phone, you're in my house. I'm your mom. I'm the queen bee. Give me your phone. That's it. It's not open for discussion. It never was. So I'm not going to look and say, oh, my God, my child's on pornography at 12 o'clock. At 14, but what do you think? Why are they in the room with their phone? They're kids. You have to help them. So those are the kind of things I talk about. It's like, how do you take your child's phone? Easy. Give me your phone. So, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Old school.
I failed to also introduce Nicole today, my co-host. I'm so sorry. All of a sudden, I'm like, there's Nicole. She's here too on this podcast. I'm so sorry.
No,
I just
it's fine.
And just to address the fact that I'm in my car, please forgive me. I spent the weekend moving. My internet is not turned on, and here we are recording the podcast anyways. So it's not about me anyway, so who cares? Anyway, so, well, obviously we're kind of going all over the place this morning. But I think, you know, one of the things, Shafia, that I love that you talk about is really the care that women need postpartum. And you had mentioned something before we started recording about also, you know, this idea of it's a shame that we have to, that women are required to advocate for themselves.
Right. During labor and the postpartum period. Right.
Yeah. And you're right. And it's so frustrating because, of course, my whole life and everything, my work entirely has been about teaching women how important it is that they learn to advocate for themselves. And it's such an oxymoron. Like, you know, like what do we do when it's like it's necessary based on the medical system,
right?
But it's not the right thing for them to have to advocate for themselves.
You know, I think you're doing the right thing. I mean, we do have to teach individuals how to advocate, but at the same time, we still need family members or professionals to support their advocacy. You know, but I always hear people say, she needs to say something, but she's pushing. She's in transition, contractions coming every 3 minutes, lasting 90 seconds. For this individual, it's really hard for her. Some people can just breathe through, don't touch me. And some people they can't even talk. And so how do they get to advocate? And that's when we have to understand that we talk to them prior. We know what they want. We have to go on trust that they said they did want this or they did not want this. Say, hey, she doesn't want that done to her, or give her a minute. And so we still have to be a collective voice. I'm advocating for each other, not just put it, you know, I'm not going to sit there, well, she should have said something. It's not right what I see being done. Just like I see a child running across the street, which I've seen, the parent might be there. I'm going to say, hey, you need to grab their hand. I have to advocate for the child because obviously the parents are just in whatever, they're not responding. And so we do need a collective voice to advocate for laboring women and new moms, you know, and of course, children.
Yeah. Tell me about what you think about the current system and what's happening to our women in.
I just wish I could get a wand and just like wave this wand where all midwives would just be the norm. And that would just end the problem. The current system is very frustrating. We have a lot of bills out. We have the Mominous bill out of the federal government that has put money to increase more midwives and doulas and things like that. And that's good. But even though we're doing that, there's still this very antiquated culture of against midwives in this country. We look at, you know, the maternity deserts across the country, rural places, doctors not, you know, retiring, not coming back, hospitals shutting down. And it can just be fixed by allowing certified professional midwives and certified midwives to just go in and fill in the rank with adequate financial and medical support. We could fix this problem. It's really an embarrassment that we have the highest mortality rate still of developed countries, the highest maternal mortality rate of so-called high, I don't say developed, high income countries. We're still here 50 years later when we know the solution. If I know it, I know the system knows it. And so I'm not really sure what is this abstract? We're still having the same conversation. Being in this world, work now for 40 years, really 50 years now. I've been talking about infant mortality prevention, more midwives, the ability to breastfeed, making the norm. Even talking to a senator yesterday. So what things could we do? I said, can we get a breastfeeding class in the 5th grade? We have a low breastfeeding rate in the United States of America. We know that women who choose to breastfeed is a prior thought. You can't tell someone at 9 months, oh, you should breastfeed. They haven't thought about it. But in middle school, we're learning about HIV, get the COVID shot, all these things, but we don't want to talk about the importance of breastfeeding or what midwives are. It's unconscionable that women are going into the hospital and did not know that there was a midwifery program in the hospital they could have used still in 2025. So yeah, I know I'm venting, but it's like, my goodness, it's hard work out here.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, I've got a TikTok channel, right? And it's interesting because one of our videos has gone pretty viral. Mm-hmm. And one of the people commented, we need to bring midwifery back.
For sure.
And the comments, there's over 200 comments underneath that.
Right.
They are horrific.
Oh no.
Yeah. Like the absolute, I'm blown away at the ignorance, like, or the just unknowing or understanding that, like, everybody is commenting that this is home birth and that home birth is dangerous. I've got EMTs commenting that they've been to these midwifery centers and they're a joke. People are dying, like all this stuff. And I'm just like, oh, when you look at something like that and you get so many comments like that, you just say that is a massive sample of the collective thought.
Exactly.
And it makes you realize just how far we have to go. But beyond how far we have to go, it's also just like, like you said, we know how to fix this problem. And I actually started writing an article about doulas and how doulas are going to be the people that revolutionize maternity care. And it's because, this is my belief anyways, I think it's because we are the only people that see birth in every single place. We see birth in hospitals, birth centers, midwives. We see it with all the different doctors. We see it with all the different hospitals. We see it with all the different nurses. We know what works and what doesn't. And it's like, and there's zero respect for that really we're undervalued and underappreciated to recognize that we know, and most of us are advocating for more midwives.
Right, sure.
It's funny. I wore this shirt today. You guys probably can't see it, but
I love it. Stop fear based maternal health care. That's right.
I love that.
I think that's the biggest issue. Like you just said, Dawn, it's like that collective of comments that you got. It's all fear-based. They don't know what home birth is. They just see, oh, it's someone, trying to do it on their own, like without any medical professionals or any kind of support. And that's not the case at all. I had 2 home births in this room actually, and was so supported. I had 7+ women surrounding me, my pelvic floor therapist, doulas, lactation, like they were just here. Family was in there. My, the siblings of, my older children.
Right.
It was such a beautiful experience. And they immediately go to the opposite, right? Like to just this wild, like woman doing it on her own, not supported, and okay, yes, something could happen. And I think this is the big thing too, is we are all very concerned that something's going to happen, and that's why home birth is dangerous. But things most of the time only happen when it's medicalized and when there's interventions adding, right? A lot of those outcomes that we see in the hospital wouldn't happen at home.
Right.
So that's this collective vision is the stuff that we hear about happening at the hospital. Oh my gosh, if that were to happen at home, it's so dangerous. But it doesn't. And that's
I think you mentioned several important things I'm trying to think how to say. I think that doulas absolutely are important, but when we talk about maternal mortality and the number of Black women and even white women, particularly Black women, rather take the chance of birthing alone than go to a hospital because the death rate is so high for us in the hospital. That right there is just again horrific. A choice you have to choose, even if you don't want to have a home birth. You're so afraid to go to the hospital because of that model. But I think what America doesn't understand, that a midwife does not only do home births. I always tell people you can have your baby in the hospital with the midwife and still get epidural. Oh my God, I didn't know that. So it's once again this misrepresentation what midwives are. It's one, first of all, illiterate, incorrect concept that it's just like this uneducated person who doesn't know what they're doing, for one. But two, that you have to be at home, you have to be natural. It has to be a vegan, as opposed to all women deserve midwives in any setting. And you have choice. And the thing about us promoting doulas, I do believe in doulas, I train them, but the thing about a doula, they don't do clinical. And we have women who are dying because of preeclampsia, hypertension, anemia, hemorrhaging, and cardiovascular, and doulas can't detect that. And so I'm concerned that the government is promoting, putting a lot of money in doulas as a solution, as opposed to fixing the problem of elevating and being honest with what midwives do. We do need that village. That means the family educated. We do need everyone. Birth is I have a quote that I'm saying that Ayana Ade, who is my mentor, she passed some years ago, 2013. She was a home birth midwife, then became a certified nurse midwife. But she said that birth is a sacred family event. And so it takes everyone. It takes the family. It takes the doula. It takes doctors too. We're not anti-doctor. They play a role. No. We want the doula. We need lactation, and so we need the chef. I want some good food after my birth. So we need a multi faceted approach. But unfortunately, because again, it's really about, we have to know the history. If midwifery was negative in Europe because of money, not because they weren't qualified, because of money that these men wanted to take over. It's the same problem. OBs make more money, they have longer education, they have more fear, they don't see birth as natural, and they have the power. And so they're still holding it down for the last, 400 years or so, and it's still not getting much easier. I'm surprised how many nurse midwifery departments are being closed around the nation. Closing the department when we're in a national crisis. Why is that being allowed? So again, I think educating our families more. I think doulas is big. Doulas are easy to train, so we can have a lot faster. So we have a bigger, cadre that can get out and say, hey, like you said, we support midwives. Let's work with midwives. And in my training, we really talk about the midwife doula unite, because we also have had doulas don't also understand what really midwives are thoroughly. And they think that they're midwives. I'm very clear that you are a emotional support. You're not a clinician. You don't know pharmacology. You don't know blood types. You can't make medical decisions.
Let me clarify. When I say that doulas are going to revolutionize maternal health, what I'm saying is that doulas are exposing the system in a big way, and that's what I mean. Obviously, we're not clinically able, but we have a view of the whole system that nobody else has. No one else is getting that in any other way, and we see what facilities are doing a great job, what midwives are doing a great job. Because let's be real, there's some that are terrible midwives too, right? Just like there are terrible doctors. And there's terrible doulas, right? I mean, that's just how it is. But what I mean is exposing it. When I think about how many people are following all of these doulas on TikTok, and I mean, they're getting millions of views, millions and millions of views, right? One Tracy doula, she just talked about her review. She had 334 million views this year.
What does she do? What's she talk about?
She's a doula. She just talks about all the things about the system and about things that, she does videos every day, but that's it. I mean, I had one video, Shafia, that I did on cervical scar tissue. It has over 7 million views.
Wow.
Right. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. We are reaching people in a huge way, and it's starting to a lot of people are starting to go, oh, wait a minute, I need to do something different. clearly,
Right,
because you can't have all of these people saying the same stuff, all these doulas from all over the country saying the same stuff and not say, hey, wait a minute,
right.
Something's happening here. So that's what I
Yeah,
mean.
you're right. Yeah, you're right. The doulas are empowering families who didn't know they have choices, because in the end of the day, when we see birthing centers in hospitals now, birthing rooms that didn't exist, or the fact that you can bring a family member, is because the health consumer was empowered to say, if I can get a tub, I'll go to a birth center. I'll have my baby at home. So it's commercialism. Let's get these things in place so that we can get these customers, because we are customers, we're not patients, into this institution so we can charge them. And so we do want to use, the doula does have a big influence to leave a family saying, wow, I can make this choice. But what I love is that once that mom or father or person realize what they can do, they tell their friend, they tell their sister, they tell their aunt, and they become that ambassador for making the change. Because at the end of the day, as I tell people, the doula is a visitor in the hospital. We don't have any power. We can be asked to move, but the mother does. She's the one who's paying. And so we can get, so if the doulas get those moms to say, no, I'm not happy. And also get mothers to write letters to say, or parents, whoever visit, I had a horrible experience. I'm not gonna come back. Or we have Earth, IRTH, that new app out by Clemens Seals Aller, where it's like a store. You're shopping. If you go to, I don't know, what's the big name store? Macy's or Nordstrom's. I'm in Oregon, or we go to food stores. Which one has fresh organic vegetables? I'm going to go there. I'm going to write a letter. Your stuff stinks. They're going to see tomorrow. I've done that. Fresh tomatoes the next day. Can I see the manager? So we do have to make some noise as the health consumer. You just say that we're not going to accept this kind of treatment. Like, we're the midwives in your hospital. I want a midwife. I'm going to go to another hospital. It's a lot of work. And like I said, the mother has a new baby. She might have cesarean section. She got a toddler. It takes a lot of commitment. So what doulas can do, we say, let's give a template to the family that they'll have to do is just, change a few and send it, but don't have to think, okay, what I want to say. Here's a framework for us to give her so we can start getting those letters in to hospitals. And then also in terms of the village, another thing that we try to do is this, everyone is not as fortunate as myself, where I have a family, I have friends, trying to help those families who only, as your previous partner's experience. How do you find help to help us, and then how do we learn to ask for help? Because that's nothing that we're not good at, saying that, what, I haven't talked to you in 3 years, but could you come over and help me change my kids or clean my house or bring me food or bring me shopping? Learning how to ask. That's what neighbors did years ago. You asked and they would say yes. I just moved myself 4 years ago, and I had prayed. I loved my house. I had a very big house for 30 years, raised all 7 kids there, but sent in the backyard, the whole bit. But we wanted to move. Our neighbor was changing. And I did pray. I believe in prayer. I prayed, I said, dear God, give me a house that has no steps, because my house had a lot of stairs. I don't want any stairs in my house. And I said, please, give me good neighbors, because, I come out and no one hardly said hi to you. No one spoke. I moved on my street. I have no stairs. We found this house. I need the house really quick. I found the house. The house has a ramp, not stairs. But more importantly, when we moved in, at least 12 neighbors came and knocked on my door. They brought cinnamon rolls. They brought flowers. They all said each thing to me, welcome to the neighborhood. Like, am I in La La Land? Does this still exist? I walk out, hey, my daughter gets, hey, Shafia. Oh, hey, so-and-so. My daughter's having twins. Hey, I just went fishing. Oh my God. I have neighbors. We're not just friends, but I know if I had a baby, they would definitely bring food over. I know if I needed help. And so we got to create these communities again. And the gentrification and we're building these really big buildings now where there's 50 people. That's too big of a village. You can't be intimate with 50 people with 10 floors and, and tiny apartments with locked doors. That's gonna be very challenging, but it is how it's happening. We'll have to figure out how we can create that village, knocking on maybe 5 doors and saying, hey, I'm married, so these are things we have to get used to. And I think with the future generation, where we're finding more of our youth looking down, you drive and everyone's looking at their phone. No one's looking up. Like, excuse me. You're trying to where's the store? They don't even hear you. I've had to ask, you had to yell and beep to say, my GPS is not working. I do use it, but it wasn't working. So you honk because no one even hears you. And so that's difficult when we're going through this, very much isolation type of society where, don't ask me. Ask a question. Well, just go to Google. But I never go to Google. They'll tell you. But I'm asking you, I'm right in front of you. So that kind of
mentality.
Yeah,
Well, it's so
ahead.
interesting because I experienced this just this week because I am not good at asking for help. And the decision to move happened very quickly. So
Right.
we have a fairly large house and anyways, there was a lot to pack in a very short period of time. Anyways, both casually, two of my girlfriends offered to help, said, "Hey, if you need any help packing or whatever, I'm happy to come over." And I was just like my initial reaction was like, absolutely not. I'm not going to ask someone to come over here and help me pack, you know?
Right.
And that was my initial reaction, was like, why would anyone want to do that? You know, and
Right.
so I was saying to my husband, I was so crazy. Both of the I said, this is so crazy because that just doesn't, I mean, I don't know that that's ever happened to me before, to be honest with you.
Right.
And I've moved a lot of times. I don't know that I've ever had anyone offer come and help me pack besides my mother.
Right.
And so I said this to my husband and he goes, "Well, why wouldn't you say yes?
Right.
Like, you need the help."
Right.
So why they wouldn't offer it if they didn't mean it?
But
And
that's not
I had to sit with that for a minute. And sure
right.
enough, I go, you know what? You're right. And so I said, you know what? I am not good at asking for help, but I would really appreciate it I would like to take you up on that offer. And then I followed it up with, but if you really can't, it's fine. You know, like I tried to you know, but ultimately they came over. It was clutch. If they hadn't come over, three of us packing my kitchen, it took 4 hours. If I
Wow.
would have been doing that by myself, plus all the hours it took me to do the rest of the house, like I wouldn't have made it. I wouldn't have made it. I don't think.
And then
So-
emotionally, you know, it's just too much. But that's an important point. Like, why don't in American society, we don't ask for help? And we're teaching this thing about independence. But yeah, we have women who are depressed. When they do the studies for postpartum depression, the first thing is feeling isolated and not having help, not hormonal, feeling isolated and not having help and being exhausted. And so, but you're taught that your whole life, don't ask, figure it out. Once you have the baby, it's already a mindset. And so it's very difficult to say, can you come over? Because we just don't know how to do it. We're taught not to do it. So that's a big problem. You know, and I'm trying to, you know, and it's not every culture. It's very Western. Other parts of the world, there's much more help.
Yeah, and I think it also is like it's a massive contributor to the breastfeeding issue too, or like the low breastfeeding issues, because many women start breastfeeding and they bail in the first couple of days because there's there's so many barriers. But the first and foremost, the barrier is that they don't know how to do it, and it's not.
Exactly.
I think people assume it just comes naturally, but that's just not always the case, right? It's not always easy, and we do need that support and somebody who's done it before and you know, skilled at it or whatever, or somebody who's just done it before with, you know, like you said, Shafia, I mean, we're unusual with, I have 6 kids, you have 7 kids, Nicole's got 4, you know, and I know that that's not the typical, but obviously I had a tremendous amount of experience with breastfeeding, both challenging and easy, straightforward, no problem. But I needed somebody who knew what the hell they were doing on that first time. And I didn't have it. And I wound up giving up breastfeeding at 3 months with my first baby. My last baby, I breastfed for 3.5 years.
Okay, good. You figured it out.
It was a big difference, right? But it was experience. It was helping other women learn how to breastfeed, thousands of them probably, you know, or hundreds of them. And you know, it's just so frustrating how much time is spent not even reaching out for help.
Well, I think we have to start with their children. You know, I teach it in my doula trainings that, you know, I teach, like I said, from African perspective, where you went to your mother for everything. You know, in our culture, you always go to your mother. She's your first resource. You know, what should I do? And she, you know, hopefully we have a adequate mom. You know, you go to your aunt, you go to your family. I know our families are getting a lot smaller. Then you go to your best friend or your sister. So but again, you have to have the ability to do that, right? And then we don't have the village, then we have to know what are the resources. I don't have that village. I don't have a mom. She died or she can't help, whatever the case may be. Then what is the best way of getting services? And sometimes it's an economic thing. I need help, but I can't afford $150 for a lactation consultant to come in. And we have that middle class. We have people who are on federal Medicaid and they get it for free. Then you got the folks who have buku money. It's not it's a breathe. Then you got the folks in between. They make, $40 too much for Medicaid and they're way under the upper echelon. So that's the group that really gets lost a lot because there's no one, they can't afford services, they can't afford services. And so just trying to figure out, that catch area too. So anything like TikTok or social media where we're putting things on our website where you can just go for free and get information. People say WIC, but everybody's not eligible for WIC. So that's not for everybody. Again, so just getting a resource that people can get for free is a big help. And I know that more and more, I see a lot of moms groups online as well. I know people are creating their online community, which is great too. I talk to my friends online. They live in other parts of the state, so Zoom is cool. So, we have that. We're not going back in time. AI is here to stay, so we're going to have to figure out, ways to do it. But as someone said, they had a big show on AI. They said AI does not take the place of a human, doesn't take the place of emotion. And so I'm so glad they said that on national TV. It's a guy that created the most up level, AI system was just happening to catch him. And the woman saying, don't be afraid of it. It has no emotion. We still need people for that. So we got to remember that no matter what we do, we still need to have emotions because having a baby is a wonderful emotional experience or it's a frightening emotional experience. But either way, it's emotional. We need humans to help level out that experience and make it, to make it positive.
One of our very first, one of our first episodes was with Krista Dancy. And she talked about that it was so substantial to me because I'd never thought about it this way. She said, if you're looking for support, close your laptop because your laptop is there and your cell phone is there for information. But most people are actually looking for support and you're not going to find it there. And that's I was true. Like,
I love that. I love that.
Mind-boggling, right? Is that that's what most people are looking for. And she used this analogy of like, if you're texting in a mom's group, you mentioned that you post in a mom's group and you ask a question about breastfeeding, right? And it's meant to be benign or whatever, right? Benign question, but people will come at you and they will be judgmental. They'll be like, you should be doing this, you should be doing that, right? But what they don't know is that on the other side of that phone is a mom sobbing, cracked, bloody nipples, desperate for support. And all she's getting is information and judgment.
Right.
And if that same person that's sitting there judging them was face to face and saw this broken woman,
right,
he would behave very differently, I guarantee you.
Well, I won't say broken woman, but I will say a woman who's having stress.
Yeah,
all the words mean everything to me, how we frame it. But another thing, we can't. It's okay if we can't be with them. I always tell people, pick up the phone. I teach the doulas. You're never going to know someone who's pushing without hearing their voice. You have to. Right. They can say everything they want. They can say, "Oh no, I'm not pushing." You call them, "How's it?" Oh, they're pushing, right? So you're not going to get that. You can't text that. So you can hear mom crying on the other side. You can hear the baby cry. If you can't get there physically, we have our 5 senses: our ears, our sound, our voice, our smell, our touch, our taste, our sight. All that helps us, and you can't do that as you to support. Just saying you can't do it on your phone or on your. Right. But if I can't get to you, I can at least call you, and that's something that we're not hearing a lot. People say, "Well, I love just text me." I said, "I have to hear your voice." People say, "I want advice." Can I say, "You have to call me. I'm not going to do anything online." If you want to talk, you have to call. I have to know who you are. You have to get the story. It takes a minute. I know my first baby, already a midwife, seeing people breastfeed. I thought I had it down. I didn't go to a breastfeeding workshop. So my baby breastfed very well, but I could not figure the life out. How do you breastfeed lying down? I could not. I'm doing all kind of weird things. I finally called my girlfriend who had 3 children. She came over and showed me how to do it. So even things like that. So I always make sure I show, in the doula training, how to lie down breastfeeding. That was another study they did. They called the hole in the baby crib the Madonna hole, that women who lay down and breastfeed had less depression than women who sat up with Madonna whole day. It's an old study, like 1982, but I still believe it. I know that a lot of old studies, things haven't changed. And so if you can rest with your baby and breastfeed and not have to keep getting up, then you're going to get more. But if you don't know how to do that safely, you know, I do respect the back to sleep. You know, you can't have a bunch of blankets and, you know, and your dogs and your kids jumping and pillows, because that's going to hurt the baby or smother the baby, God forbid, worse. But if you're taught correctly how to do it, it's a lifesaver. You know, for a lot of
definitely is.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I mean, it just saves your back and your shoulders. If just something as simple as that,
and
you know,
you can doze off. And you're not so tired because the baby they're not going to choke. It's not like a bottle's dripping. Once they let their mouth open, nothing's going to come out. So it's just a great thing. But we don't talk about it enough. I don't hear it really being taught. I don't. Have you heard it being taught, you all, Nicole or Dawn?
no, not really,
Yeah.
not at all.
I advocate for it so much because I've done it.
Good.
My youngest two are going to be 3 and about to be 1 next week. And they're both still in my bed, and they both were the best breastfed, you know, babies that I had. And they are like just overall happy, healthy, whole little babies. Not that my other two weren't, but, you know, just a different experience. And I'm such an advocate for it. Like my sister, who's the opposite side of the coin of me, she just had her second baby, and she started seeing things differently. And, you know, she finally, after a lot of resistance for the last couple of years, was like, oh no, I'm going to do things the way you're telling me, and has had such an amazing, you know, journey herself. So,
that's lovely.
you know, we see what we are experiencing, right? So for me, the norm is these, you know, bedroom babies, as my son likes to call them, with these great co-sleeping relationships, breastfeeding relationships, all of that. But then, like you said, Dawn, like you step out into the mainstream world and the collective, and you're just like, oh, I didn't realize we're so far behind here, you know?
Yeah. God, this is a whole nother discussion, really, because I have 2 sets of kids, right? I have my youngest was 13 of the first 4. He was 13 when the other 2 were born. So, 13 and 14. And I parented so differently. I was so Western. I didn't understand why anyone would have their baby at home. I didn't understand why anyone would want to do it without drugs. I thought they were crazy, right? I mean, even in my early doula days, to be really frank and honest, I did not believe in any of it. I thought it was all kind of woo-woo. I didn't get midwives. I mean, listen, I could not have swung farther from the other side, because my last 2 wound up being, you know, breastfed for a really long time. And they were in my bed until they were 4 or 5 years old. And by the way, they got out all by themselves, you know, like, right. They, and they're 14 and 15, and they don't sleep in my bed anymore, and they haven't for many years, but they are, and even our younger kids acknowledge how different we have parented them. And they have recognized that it was probably better, right? I had so much trauma with my other 2, just desperately wanting to be with me and be in my bed and fighting with them the whole time and yelling at them, and just, you know, when it was just I didn't know they were biologically wired to do this.
To be near you, exactly.
It just didn't know. I know. But now when you know better, you do better, right?
Exactly.
That's one of my favorite quotes of all time by Mrs. Maya Angelou.
We weren't taught that. We're taught that you put the baby on a schedule, you put them in a crib, you close the door, you let them self-soothe, all this crazy talk by these guys teaching. These are all men teaching. You haven't birthed a baby. You don't know what it like. You don't know the connect. We're crying at night. Let them cry. Like you want to get them, but you're taught not to. So yeah, it was a mess. So, but how did you all feel? Like, did you feel rested with that? Do you all feel rested with the babies in your bed?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
you
so
felt better.
Yeah.
my first was well, I had very bad postpartum OCD and anxiety with my first because of other reasons, but
Right.
he was, in his bed sleeping through the night. We didn't do too much sleep training. He was just always a good sleeper, thankfully. But
Right.
like it was more, I was afraid to have him even in our room because we had dogs sleeping on the bed, and I had a 90-pound pit lab at the time, and she was like mama dog. So he would cry in the bassinet, and then she would try to like lean over, and like my OCD was like, oh my gosh, she's gonna drop, it's gonna fall over in the middle of the night. So that's why he was in the crib, because she couldn't knock that over, obviously. But we were up, all night. I would even check on him, even if he was sleeping. I would go, I would wake up and check on him. Whereas like now, I don't even like, I'm definitely up during the night, but it's not a full on wake up, get out of bed, have to function, make a bubble because my first was out of bed. It's, okay, let me move my shirt out of the way.
Right.
That's great.
Go back to sleep. Like it's so nice. And yeah, everyone's like, how do you do it with 4 kids? How do you do everything you do with 4 kids? And like, I built the Perinatal Resource Collaborative. We started when my son was 3.5 months old, and he's like, now he's, like I said, he's about to be 1. And I'm like, because I sleep, because like, he just does things with me. Like I'm usually, nursing him while I'm on meetings and I integrate my children into my business, into my, into my journey. But
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, but when I was my first, who's 7, I was working corporate and he was in daycare, and there was this disconnect. And like you said, Dawn, like I feel I have so much like guilt and regret for doing things the way I did my first, but I didn't know any better. And then I learned, and I joke around about this. It's not really a joke, but like COVID happened and like changed the trajectory of everything. And COVID, like being quarantined in our house, was the best thing ever that happened to us, because my second son was born 2 weeks after lockdowns. So like I got that sacred postpartum period where only like select people were coming, and there wasn't any like urgency to go anywhere because no one was going anywhere. And that showed me that gentle postpartum. And then, when my 3rd and 4th came along, I was like, oh, well, now I'm going to be intentional about it. And it was so great. So I was saying this morning, I'm like, I want another one. And my husband's like, no more. So,
well, we should probably wrap this up. We are well over our 45 minutes because, of course, Miss Shafia, we could talk to you all day long. I know that we could, and we could go down a rabbit hole of so many different topics. And I hope that you'll come back sometime and that you enjoyed it.
I did, and thank you all for having me, first of all. And I love these things, and not only do I get to share, I get to learn, hearing your all stories and what you're doing, and the world hearing what you all are doing, and how we all, as parents, mothers, there's no perfect parenting, no perfect mother. We love our children, and they're resilient. The things that we did with my first, God forbid, I didn't know, like you, having more children, like anything else, experience. My mother always said the first one's an experiment. I remember that. She said the first one's an experiment. So I had to tell my son, your grandmother said the first. So whatever I did, I said, I'm sorry. If you need to, I'll pay for therapy. He laughed. I'm okay, Mom. But So, but yeah, thank you. I'll be happy to come back. And doulas rock, right? Midwives and doulas unite.
You. Midwives and doulas unite.
Love
That's
that.
right. That's right.
I'm ready. I'm ready for the fight. Well, I mean, I've been fighting for a long time.
You sure have been. Right.
I will keep up the good fight. So, well, thank you so much again for coming on, and we appreciate you. Just one last question. Speaking of the village, who do you think is the most important part for a new family?
I would say for family, definitely if you have the mother, the grandma, she's supposed to be the one that brings people together, protect her daughter and her grandchild. And if the mother's not available, just professional, I would just say next would be, for me, it would be the midwife, if you had a midwife. I know you said 1, but I'm a Gemini, so there's 3. And last would be the doula. So mother, midwife, because the midwife can also give resources and help the doula. And sometimes midwives actually refer their client to get a doula. They even know what a doula was. It's often the midwife say, hey, you need to get a doula. Here's my list. So yeah, but definitely if we could get moms to do it, you know, because around the world, I look at the Saudi Arabian culture, the mother brings those 30 women together, literally huge numbers of people just doing nothing. India, the grandmothers come in and they're massaging the baby or the massaging the mom. They get this whole ritual. In Africa, you know, in the South, Black women would have, you know, the mother would come and tell everybody that the baby's born. People come over and bring food and clean the house. So we want to elevate moms, but it's hard when mothers are not considered important here. You know, it's like, oh, you're taking care of your daughter, aren't you back at work? I mean, the whole thing with doula came from, as you know, Dana Raphael, whose own mother was not available to her when that's how she started. Her mother was to that era. They were playing golf and painting and did not help their daughters. So she had to go find help around breastfeeding. And that's how the whole doula thing even came, because the mother left. And so again, being a mother of 7, I love taking care of my daughters when they have babies. My son, his girlfriend, I flew in, I lived there for a week. She just like, don't leave. I mean, I just love taking care of people after baby. I just love to see them happy, to run their water, to rub their back, you know, to do their hair, to say, oh my God, you're so beautiful. Let me wrap your stomach. Oh, don't do, I got it lay down. Oh my God, don't leave. This is amazing. I feel so good. That's what they should feel. They should feel so good. They just brought life into the world. We have to honor them. They are queens. You know, they didn't settle down. They deserve that. They carried the child for 42 weeks. They pushed it out for whatever amount of time. They deserve everything. Without women, there'd be no life. Without mother, there'd be no life. They deserve all the honor. And that's what I'm trying to promote. You know, let's elevate mothers. We're proud to be. We're not ashamed. We're not apologizing. I choose to have 5 kids. I want to have 7. Why do you want to have more kids? I watch Shark Tank, and like people walk in with their thing, and I have 5 kids. Oh my God, 5 kids. There goes your life. It's never congratulations. Never congratulations. I teach my doulas, the first thing to do when I'm pregnant, first I say, oh my God, congratulations. How wonderful. And I took 5,000 women, and I've asked them over the years, it's gotten better, but for years, especially Black women, no congratulations. Just like, why are you pregnant? Do you want to keep it? That's the response. Oh, are you going to keep it? Oh my God, how depressing is that? So as a society, that's what we're hearing now. Like, are you going to keep it? So that brings in depression after, because you were never honored during the pregnancy. So I'm on a mission, you all, to elevate the mother back to her elevated state of being the goddess, the giver of life, deserve to bow down, respect me, you know, pay homage to me. We say in Islam, reverence the womb that bore you, for God ever watches over you. And I will end with that.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Hey, thanks for joining us on Speaking of the Village. If you love today's episode, make sure to hit subscribe and share it with a friend.
And remember, you're not alone. We're here, we're listening, and we're all in this together, because in our village, no mom walks alone.